Hey there everybody, Eric from Outer Limitless coming at you today with another video. Now in today's video we're going to look at a unique fixed blade offering from the company B'yond EDC. This here in my hands, this is the model BED C2101-BR. But in other words, this is the Kleevr. Yes, the Kleevr. B'yond EDC is a company whose products I've covered now for a couple of years as they got started, as we saw them at Blade Show, as we saw them at SHOT Show, and recently on my channel when I covered the Chunk. Now this here, a Dirk Pinkerton design. Dirk Pinkerton is one of my absolute favorite designers, and well, here today on the Kleevr we get to look at another one of his designs and collaborations with B'yond EDC. So what we're going to do, we're going to go through this in detail. I'm going to show you this up close so you can take a look for yourself. I'm going to get this into some practical and, well, quite honestly, some less than practical use with this Kleevr. But with that said, I have a whole bunch to do and a whole bunch to share with you. And if you're interested in seeing a little bit more about what I'm about to get into, do me a favor, stay tuned. Now before we get too far, I would like to say thank you very much to the people at B'yond EDC who did provide this for review. And so here, the Kleevr, as I mentioned, a Dirk Pinkerton design. Again, I'm a big fan of Dirk. What I like about his work, it's very interesting. It generally strikes the balance between a reasonable utility blade, something that is maybe self-defense worthy, but at the same time has a practical outdoor use. And so for me, his designs are literally the perfect place for me, my liking, my style, and what just really works in my collection. So as you take a look here, pretty straightforward, fairly easy packaging. You can see this has a nice Kydex sheath with a belt clip. Here, the Kleevr itself and a small warranty card. So generally speaking, very simple, but here, the Kleevr. So this particular variant in tan G10, you can see it has a VG10 blade with that stonewash finish, kind of that tumbled stonewash finish. This knife has an overall length of 8.4 inches, a blade length of 4.5 inches, your cutting edge right at 4 inches. The blade depth here, 2.28 inches, 0.17 thick stock of VG10. This has a 4.05 inch long handle with a handle thickness of 0.5 inches. This reportedly weighs in around 8 ounces, has a full flat grind into an unsharpened swedge, some jimping on top, and as I mentioned, the Kydex sheath. So generally speaking, a really cool package. Now, this knife is completely different. And when I say completely, I literally mean completely different from anything else I have in my collection. It's a little bit refreshing. It's going to make me think a little different. It's going to make me kind of look for different ways to use this than other blades. I mean, that's the bottom line. When you get something that's just completely different, it makes you think, it makes you wonder, and it makes you experiment. And I like that. Now, as we take a look at this, a very high, full flat grind all the way into that unsharpened swedge. So that is one thing worth noting here. You have that 0.17, which is getting close to a 3/16 of an inch thick stock. So this is right between 5/32 and 3/16. So it's fairly stout, all things considered. But then by the time you get down that, 2-inch plus deep blade, you're going to have a very, very fine and slicey edge. As you look there, very nicely ground. That is one thing that I've found from B'yond EDC. They're doing a wonderful job with all the lines. Their manufacturing and machining has been phenomenal. And look how even that edge is from the beginning all the way to the end. And that is certainly the case on both sides, as you see that secondary bevel there shining in the light. So it really is that very high primary grind and then down into that refined secondary bevel. And everything just nicely done. All the edges softened and tumbled. Very nice. This is not sharp, but you could certainly use it for some basic little tasks if you needed to. And the question is, what is the intended purpose of this knife? So a lot of times you talk about a knife and a design and what is the intended purpose. Well, that's a little bit difficult. For me, I struggled to find where I would use this, and I'll talk about that in a little more detail in a little bit. But first and foremost, to me, my brain goes to kitchen tasks. I mean, can you use this for utility? Probably. Could you use this for a little bit of fire prep? Maybe, and again, we'll talk about that. Can you use this for self-defense? Well, that's the other thing about Dirk Pinkerton. Remember what I said in the intro? I like Dirk Pinkerton's designs because typically they, strike the balance between good quality, utility purpose, but also, that self-defense sort of mantra. And you could certainly do that with this. Dirk usually allows for a number of different grips, and depending on your needs and what you're going to do, you could definitely hold this blade a number of different ways. So you do kind of get some alternate grips for different tasks depending on exactly what you're trying to do. And I like that about this. So with that, let's turn this corner. I'm going to get into some significant food prep, and I'll talk to you about the quality of the cutting edge and how this is in the kitchen. And so now, as we get the B'yond EDC Kleevr into some good quality kitchen food prep tasks, the Kleevr absolutely perfect for this intended use. Now, a Kleevr is something that most people have in their kitchen, but, well, maybe they're not a little bit multi-role inspired, maybe they're not tactically inspired, and maybe they're not quite as small or belt carryable as the B'yond EDC Kleevr. So here a very interesting take on a Kleevr design, and is working extremely well for these kitchen tasks. Now keep in mind, VG10 steel is a great choice for kitchen knives. Generally speaking, VG10 is often used as a kitchen knife steel. It is Japanese steel and is a very good quality steel in terms of its overall edge retention and its general resistance to corrosion. So that's exactly what you get with the B'yond EDC Kleevr. The overall length being 4 inches in handle length, 4.25 inches in blade length, and with that G10 handle, it is going to perform extremely well. Now, generally speaking, this will perform kitchen tasks with ease, having a nice deep blade with a good thin edge all the way down to that secondary grind. It will absolutely make its way through the food with ease. You can see here performing a number of different tasks. Now, I did put this to a ton of food prep. That is where I really put this through the paces, and this absolutely shined. This particular day, I was getting ready for a party, so I had endless food to prep, endless food to cut, and a number of different ways that I had to use the knife. And I have to say, this B'yond EDC Kleevr was fantastic. Now, if there's any one thing I've come to know from Dirk Pinkerton Designs, he is very multi-role oriented. His knives are great for EDC, they're great for utility purpose, they're excellent for the tactical role, and in this case, he's transitioning over to the kitchen tasks. Dirk Pinkerton Designs, again, very multi-role oriented, and that is absolutely the case with the Kleevr. Now, I am trying to use this just a little bit different than maybe you would typically use a Kleevr, but that's the fun. One thing that I greatly enjoy is a knife that's different in my collection, having the ability to experiment, pushing my mind to the next sort of level and using the knife in ways that it may not necessarily be intended, and it's really performing nicely. Now, as you look at some of these different sort of food items, they will have the potential to stain a kitchen knife. If this was a carbon steel knife, it would definitely be struggling with things like onions. It would definitely be struggling with things like marinades. But in this particular case, being the VG10 steel, very corrosion resistant, which is perfect for those kitchen tasks. And that's why VG10 is used a lot of times for kitchen knives. So here on the Kleevr, again, very, very nicely done. And you can see real clean cuts, very simple. This does struggle just a little bit in terms of its overall blade length. It's not like it's a chef knife or something like that. It's simply a 4¼ inch blade length, which is fine. It will perform these tasks, but in certain cases you may need to take a couple of bites at the item. Not a big deal, but it does definitely make up in blade depth, which is fantastic. So generally speaking, as you take a look at the Kleevr through all of these different food prep tasks, you can see it performed extremely well. I do need to say I am a big fan. And then beyond all of that, again, the ability to clean up nicely. This is going to be corrosion resistant, so you're not going to have any problem with the water. You're not going to have any problem if you leave the knife laying around wet for a while. No problem at all. And coupling that with the fact that it does come with a nice Kydex sheath, you have a perfect carry option. So the B'yond EDC Kleevr, just awesome. And so now that you've seen the Kleevr getting to work, let's take a look at the Kydex sheath. So very nicely made. There is just one thing for me. It's a little bit awkward. You know, I'm trying to kind of find my piece with this knife and where it really works. And I like it. I like it a lot. It's just for my personal style and some of the things that I try to do, it becomes a little bit funny, a little bit limited, but at the same time, the sheath definitely serves its purpose. I've been working on how to kind of get this installed, and what I found is kind of get that tip in and then rock the knife down, and it has these sort of, you know, little wings here that help to spread it, and at that point, the knife goes in and seats. Now, it seats real sound, real secure. It's not like an audible click, but it's not going anywhere. I mean, that knife is definitely in there. It's much easier when it's actually on your belt to get the knife in. And then for deployment, again, you have this little ramp, and as you push down and pop out the knife, there you go. So you can definitely do this. It takes a little bit of practice, and I bet you over time it would get faster and faster. So this is not terribly difficult, but at the same time, just something to practice and get used to. Now this I do like. If you notice how this is made, because you're required to deploy the knife sort of out of the side of the sheath, and for me, I would really like to wear this more vertical on my belt, have it on my strong side, pop this knife out. Well, this clip here can only mount on the side. However, they do happen to have this clip that rotates, and this can swivel, which is awesome. So I do like that. It's actually a pretty practical clip, all things considered. It's got a little bit of flex and a little bit of give just because that's canted off of it, but at the same time, I've found no problem with it, and it actually works quite effectively. And so here, real quick, just demonstrating the Kleevr on my belt. As I mentioned, I like to carry this in the vertical position. The nice thing is, if you prefer to carry it horizontal, you can certainly do so. So this fitting very nice, very easy. If you want, you can kind of cant it. I found that that works too. I really will grab with my left hand to secure it, pop the knife out, and here you are, no problem. Get to work, do your tasks, and then again, nice and secure with those two hands, slide that back into place. It's been extremely easy. I can cant this up, kind of tuck it in, get out of the way. Easy to sit down, no problem. It's out of the way, and if I want, again, I can even sort of kick that, and it just pushes the handle back a little bit further. So the sheath design, even though at an initial glimpse, is going to take a little bit of practice and a little bit of getting used to. At the same time, it is extremely effective, very nicely made, and I really like the choice of clip system that they went with. So nicely done from B'yond EDC. And so now you've seen the Kleevr in the kitchen, but what about some of those other tasks? Let's turn the corner a little bit and talk about this in the fire prep application. And so now as we get the Kleevr out into the field for some harder tasks, I am definitely stressing this knife beyond its intended purpose, beyond what it's capable of doing, and pounding it down into this oak log here. You can see it wants to kind of do the work, but it's just too short. The blade isn't quite the right shape, and the fact that it's a full flat grind all the way to the top definitely leaves it lacking. Now pay close attention here. I made a major mistake. I don't usually mess up with my knives, but today, well, it's just one of those days. Again, the Kleevr edge, very, very thin, and lo and behold, Well, look what happened. Outer Limitless definitely made a mistake. Again, I don't do this often, but when I do, I own it. This is strictly user error. VG10 is going to be a little bit brittle, not the best for the hard use tasks. And so, despite my typical understanding of knives and steel and grinds, I messed up. I did. And to me, that caught me a little bit by surprise. Now, a few things. Typically, VG10 is going to be a little less, and I'm going to say tough, than a carbon steel. If this was carbon steel, I really don't think what I did would have damaged the blade. When you take a look at the dowel, this is what actually created the problem, and it had a little bit of a knot in the corner. And I just wonder if this was a little too stubborn. But at the end of the day, it's just, not even a 1-inch dowel. This is probably closer to 3/4 of an inch in diameter. Not incredibly hard wood. And every knife I've had has been able to do this. So it caught me by surprise. However, in retrospect and thinking back, when you look at how absolutely thin this is behind the edge, by the time you get from the top of the spine all the way down to the bottom of the blade, you'll notice how thin it is. And yes, B'yond EDC did take care of me. So thank you very much to the people at B'yond EDC for really, taking care of something that was my fault. I did this. I broke it. I damaged it. But they took care of me. And that speaks to their customer service. So beyond everything else, I should probably not have batoned with this. Now, where does this leave this? Can you still do a little bit of fine feather work and slicing and, all the basic simple stuff? Of course you can. Of course you can. Should you baton with this? Probably not. I learned that the hard way. Unfortunately, sometimes that's what happens. And with the VG10, you do need to be a little bit careful. But all in all, the Kleevr, a really cool fixed blade design. Again, I love Dirk Pinkerton's designs. I think he does a fantastic job. And the Kleevr here definitely fits the mold. It's different. It's edgy. It has just sort of a different feel in my collection. I love that. It's refreshing. It makes me think about other ways I could potentially use this. Could I get this into some more simple utility tasks? Certainly. To me, this is going to shine in my collection for some of the food prep. I'll probably throw this in my knife block and I'll just keep it in the kitchen. I'll use it as a regular kitchen tool. Being VG10, it's going to clean up very well. It's going to be stainless. It's going to be corrosion resistant. That also really nice. The fact that it's tumbled really will wash up nicely. G10, you can't hurt it. So this does definitely have a place in my collection. Did I mess up? Yeah, I own that one. But at the same time, just a neat design and something worth considering. So to the people at B'yond EDC, thank you very much. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to take a look at the Kleevr. And for the rest of you, if you like this content, do me a favor. Take a look at my OUTER LIMITLESS 2 channel, which is more on the tactical and firearm side of things. At this point, that channel is growing quickly. I have a ton of videos up there. So if you like what you see here on OUTER LIMITLESS, do me a favor and check me out on OUTER LIMITLESS 2. So all right, guys, thanks for stopping by. I hope you like what you saw. I hope you found it a little bit informative. If you like what you saw, please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thanks for stopping by. Take care now. I'll see you soon.